All right, so Ron DeSanctimonious, Meatball Ron, Pudding Finger Ron. Pick your favorite. I'm still going with the Meatball Ron. Okay, I think that's a classic. I think if Trump busts that out in the debates, he's gonna have this locked down. But anyways, Meatball Ron, okay, is apparently going to be making his big official announcement tonight, and he's going to be doing it in a pretty strange and unexpected way, I guess. So here from NBC News, they say Ron DeSantis will launch his presidential bid with Elon Musk. They say the Florida governor will announce that he is running for president on Twitter Wednesday evening in a conversation with Musk. Okay, I mean, what is going on here? This is a presidential campaign that we're talking about here, and he's going to launch this in like a Twitter Spaces conversation with Elon Musk. I mean, first of all, I'm not convinced in any way, shape, or form that this is actually going to go well because, you know, the Twitter hardware is absolutely terrible, and a lot of the software that they're running, I mean, like videos are freezing constantly. I've never even been in one of these spaces that they're talking about where apparently this is going to be hosted. I'm pretty sure it's just audio, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but this is just a really weird way to launch a 2024 bid, and it seems like Ron DeSantis or maybe some of the people around him are just way too online, because this is not something that like your grandma or a right-wing constituency of elderly people are going to be able to figure out how to get onto on Twitter, right? But they say here, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will announce that he is running for president during a discussion with Twitter CEO Elon Musk. Three sources familiar with the plans told NBC News. They say Musk and DeSantis will host an event on Twitter Spaces, the site's platform for, again, yeah, it's just audio chats, on Wednesday at 6 p.m., so that's just in a couple hours here. They say it will be moderated by David Sachs, a tech entrepreneur who is a Musk confidant and a DeSantis supporter. Okay, so just running with some of the, most grotesque elitists in the country. They say that same evening, the campaign will release a launch video, and DeSantis will begin visiting several early states after Memorial Day. They say the relationship could be a significant boost for DeSantis by giving him an introduction to and credibility with Musk's massive following, including his 140 million Twitter followers, but it could be a burden should DeSantis become distracted by the tycoon's many controversial comments. I mean, like, first off, okay, Elon Musk, right? This is the same guy who I just saw an interview with like last week. He was saying, I'm not a big fan of Biden. I don't like Joe Biden. Maybe he doesn't like Trump either. He said he voted for Biden in 2020, but he's saying basically, I'm just looking for like a normal president. Now, in my mind, that means that he's looking for somebody who's just going to maintain the status quo of giving him billions of dollars in subsidies and protecting his corporations, protecting his profits and all of that stuff, right? That's basically what I take that to mean. But then he turns around and he's like, I hate Joe Biden, even though he's effectively just a status quo, manager, but I like Ron DeSantis now. Okay, is that what we're talking about here? This is sort of a tacit endorsement of Ron DeSantis by having this Twitter Spaces where you're going to sort of be doing the interview to launch off his presidential bid. I mean, it's definitely not a neutral thing to do. And I mean, this is something that he talked about previously as well, as pointed out here by Matt Binder. He says, Elon Musk, Twitter must be politically neutral. Also Elon Musk doing this shit. I mean, like, what are we talking about here, right? I mean, imagine if this was previous Twitter and they did the launch off of Joe Biden's announcement for his 2020 campaign on Twitter with an interview with the CEO at the time, Jack Dorsey, okay? I mean, Republicans would have been freaking out about it and saying this is proof that Twitter as a social media platform has a left-wing bias or a liberal bias towards the Democratic Party. And now Elon Musk, the CEO, the head of this company that has been driving this app into the ground, basically every single thing that he has done since he took power has been to the detriment of the usability of this website. It's borderline unusable at this point. But now he's turning around and he's just, I guess, being DeSantis's little lapdog or lap buddy, I guess, and sort of helping him launch his campaign. I mean, it's kind of just bizarre, right? But we also had this. We had an advertisement, which I guess is sort of like the warm-up to the introduction advertisement that apparently we're going to see tomorrow morning or late tonight. But this was posted by his wife, Ron DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis. And it's honestly just one of the most boring ads I've ever seen in my entire life. So let's watch this real quick. Let's see if we can get through this.
They call it faith because in the face of darkness, you can see that brighter future. A faith that our best days lay ahead of us. But is it worth the fight? Do I have the courage? Is it worth the sacrifice? America has been worth it every single time.
I mean, like, that's it. That's what you got, man. That's your opening selling pitch, that, like, I'm up next, basically. I deserve to be, next in line for this position. Not a single mention of any policies or values or what you stand for. Just sort of like a hype video for yourself, I guess. I mean, sure, go for it. Don't think it's going to be too effective. We've also gotten some idea of what some of his potential campaign merch might be looking like. So I don't know if this was actually made by his campaign. Some people have been saying that. Others have been saying that it's sort of like an outside, semi-outside organization that's making this. But I mean, it looks like they effectively just took Donald Trump's logo almost from 2016, and they just put like DeSantis 2024, and then even copied half of his slogan and said, "Make America Florida," which, like, not only are you sort of like doing a knockoff of what Donald Trump's slogan was and the hats that he put out, right? These kind of trucker hats, right? But then on top of that, "Make America Florida." Is that the selling pitch? Is this a phrase that Ron DeSanctimonious, Meatball Ron, Pudding Finger Ron is going to be going with for 2024? Make America Florida? I don't know what, like, your initial reaction to the concept of Florida existing as a U.S. state, but I'm pretty sure that, like, if the American people were to vote on which state has, like, the worst reputation, Florida would probably be top 10, to be safe. Okay, maybe top 5, depending on who you ask, right? Make America Florida. Is that a good selling pitch for the I don't know. Maybe it is, and maybe I'm just a Florida hater or something like that. But I mean, we also have obviously the Trump aspect of this, because Ron DeSantis is going to be trying to dethrone Donald Trump, right? So how's this going to go for him? Well, we can look back at some previous examples of how Donald Trump has talked about Ron DeSantis. I'm going to show you one of his truths here in a second, but we can also look just for perspective here in terms of how Donald Trump has previously and even recently talked about a guy like Elon Musk, who apparently is now, buddy with Ron DeSantis. So here from Donald Trump. He says, "When Elon Musk came to the White House asking me for help on all of his many subsidized projects, whether it's electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere, without which subsidies he'd be worthless, and telling me how much he was a big Trump fan and a Republican, I could have said, drop to your knees and beg, and he would have done it." Okay, this is how Trump is able to sort of like bitch the most powerful or wealthiest person in the entire world, Elon Musk. Okay, so I mean, again, Donald Trump, he knows how to throw some shots. We've seen it before, back in especially 2016, but he knows how to throw some shots. And Ron DeSantis, honestly, given some of the viral clips that we have seen over the last couple of weeks of him just trying to do like the basics of interacting with some of the constituents who he's trying to steal away from Donald Trump, and just having like the most awkward interactions that you could possibly imagine, wouldn't be too confident in his ability to, in a smooth way, deflect all of these shots coming from Trump. And then not only that, but launching counterattacks that are going to be enough to make up like the 30% gap that he's behind Trump right now on. I mean, it's just not, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But we had another Truth Social, I don't know what you call these instead of a tweet. Is this like a truth or something? But Trump says, "I got 1.2 million more votes in Florida than DeSantis." I guess he's just shortening DeSanctimonious now. "Than DeSantis. Also, Bill Hammer at Fox News just used an old April poll showing me leading 51-25. Why doesn't Fox get a more up-to-date poll, 72-18%? I haven't seen that high of a number, okay? But he says, "With the other candidates, much lower. Just like 2016, it's why people are leaving Fox News. P.S. P.S. Without me, DeSantis would have lost in the primary and the general. Thank you, President Trump," talking about himself in the third person. Okay, so I mean, again, we're going to be seeing more and more of this. It's definitely going to be heating up as time goes on, especially with him making this official announcement tonight. And honestly, I wouldn't put it past Donald Trump, even though he does have this Truth Social platform that he's been hyping up for a while now, since he was banned from Twitter. I would not put it past him to log on to twitter.com tonight, right as this Twitter Spaces is happening or something, and one person tweeted out maybe Trump should just come on Twitter and just tweet like, "Tiny Ron" or something like that, and just leave it at that. Would probably get like 10 million likes on that tweet, honestly, and kind of blow up his Twitter Spaces. So we'll have to see what happens. Maybe Trump comes back tonight, maybe he doesn't. But again, I mean, according to the polling data here, and obviously, I'm no fan of Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. Honestly, I think that Ron DeSantis is a much more effective legislator. And so I think that with his ideological approach to issues regarding like the LGBTQ community, or issues regarding, voting rights or protesting rights or free speech rights or whatever the case, economics, foreign policy. I mean, we talked about that allegation that he was directly involved in torturing prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. I mean, so many different disagreements I would have with Ron DeSantis, but I do think he's more effective than Trump in terms of getting his ideological framework enacted into law. So I think he's more dangerous than Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump basically just, licks his finger, puts it up to the wind, and then he'll follow in whatever, path that may take him to give him that sort of popularity, or to keep him in power, right? I mean, this is why we see Donald Trump effectively using the attacks against Ron DeSantis, that he's in favor of cutting Medicare and Social Security, right? It's not that Donald Trump has like an ideological position on government spending or whether or not we should cut or expand those programs. He just sees what's popular and then goes in that direction. I mean, same thing with abortion. It's why Ron DeSantis is much more extreme on abortion, is because he's a much more ideological guy. So that's sort of going to be like the sort of platform of the 2024 Republican primary, is we're going to see Donald Trump pretty much running slightly, albeit, to the left of Ron DeSantis on many of these different key issues, which I think is actually going to be effective and is just going to solidify some of the leads like this. I mean, we look at some of the most recent polling data. Now, this was from a Harvard Caps Harris poll that just recently came out. This shit was absolutely wild for so many different reasons, with all of the different pieces of information that we got from this. I might do an entirely other video on some of the different pieces of polling data from this, just because of how absolutely insane it was. But I just want to focus on a couple here in the GOP primary to get a glimpse of what this is going to look like, right? So they say here, Trump is a clear favorite in a prospective GOP primary and continues to gain ground on DeSantis. So is Ron DeSantis' announcement going to make a big dent in that? I don't know, maybe a couple point jump, but it's really not even fucking close here. They say, if the Republican presidential primary for 2024 was held today, who would you vote for? And this is obviously just GOP voters. Donald Trump, 58%. Ron DeSantis, 16%. I mean, it's not even remotely close, right? We also have this. If President Trump doesn't run, okay, then you have Ron DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis' best chance at becoming the president of the United States is if Donald Trump dies. Literally, I mean, that's his best shot. Other than that, I would give it maybe like a 5% chance of happening if something catastrophic were to happen to Donald Trump or his campaign. A little bit more info here. They say Trump handedly beats all challengers in a hypothetical primary matchup. So this has been one of the key questions as we've had more and more people enter the race recently. We had Tim Scott just announced recently. We had, Nikki Haley, obviously, Vivek Ramaswamy, a whole bunch of different people. Glenn Youngkin from Virginia is thinking about running. A bunch of different people who have entered in this race recently. But the big question has been like, okay, well, what if it was just a head-to-head with Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis? Then DeSantis surely would have a better chance. Well, I mean, look at this, right? If the Republican primary is down to two choices, Tim Scott or Donald Trump, okay, it's 79 to 21%. All right, if it's two choices, Mike Pence or Donald Trump, again, 77 to 23. Okay, if it's Ron DeSantis and Trump, it's slightly better than the rest of them, but it's still 65 to 35. I mean, it's not like a 50-50 chance that Ron DeSantis beats him, even if everybody else dropped out and endorsed Ron DeSantis, right? They say here, again, another piece of data. They say voters and Republicans believe DeSantis is ready to give Trump a real challenge. So 43% think that he's going to, I guess, have potentially a chance against him, or I guess I'm reading this backwards. 57% chance that DeSantis is ready to give Trump a real challenge. 43% say that he's fading. But again, if you look at the previous data that we just looked at, it's still not a close race, right? They think maybe he'll give him a little bit of a challenge. You also had this on DeSantis' more extreme abortion position. Apparently, it's going to either have no effect or make you more likely to vote for him. So maybe it'll help him a little bit in the GOP primary, marginally along, those points. But again, Donald Trump can just come out and say, I appointed these Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. Why would you vote for DeSantis? I proved that I could do this at the federal level, right? So even on that, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. And then it's also, even if it did help him in the primary, it's going to hurt him in the general election for Ron DeSantis having a more extreme abortion position, because that's not popular, just like most of his agenda is not popular if you actually lay it out for the American people. But I mean, again, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's some of the key data points, I guess, for that specific poll and for the 2024 GOP primary. But you know, I'm anticipating this is going to be an absolute shit show tonight. We're going to get to see a clashing of the minds, two of the most insufferable people in the country, Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis, not really going head to head, but I guess just sort of like having a loose interview or loose conversation moderated by some wealthy asshole. And they're going to be doing it on one of the worst platforms you could possibly do it on, Twitter. And not only just on Twitter, right, but not even in a video format. It's just going to be on Twitter Spaces. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be an absolute disaster. I think this is going to be a flop, especially if Donald Trump comes back and sends out like a tiny Ron D or something like that tonight, or pudding finger Ron, and then just leaves it at that. You know, could pretty much snuff out any momentum that this might give Ron DeSantis. But you know, I'll probably do a follow-up video tomorrow on this, and we'll do a little bit of an analysis in terms of where we go from here.
Everyone is saying good politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying